All right, today we are in Chapter 3, Section 2. We're going to continue to discuss about the different parts of the organization of the government. Specifically, in this section, we're going to talk about the three branches of government, which is Article 1, 2, and 3 of the United States Constitution. The first part, of course, is the executive branch, and this is the President of the United States. That person is considered the leader of the executive branch. The President's main duties are to enforce federal laws and recommend new ones. He or she also serves as the commander-in-chief of the Army, the Armed Forces, which is the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, Marines. And they're also to meet with or designate another person to talk to people from other countries. Inside of the president's executive branch is the president's cabinet. Carrying out the laws of the United States is a big job. So to help the president, he has a vice president and department heads who advise the president on issues to help carry out these policies. The vice president serves as the president of the Senate, and what that means is he casts a tie-breaking vote in the Senate in case it's a 50-50 split. And he becomes the president if the president can no longer do the job. We'll talk about that when we talk about succession of the presidency. Leaders in each department are then called secretaries, and these secretaries make up the presidential cabinet. Some of the main departments we'll talk about is the Department of Education, where they talk about money for public schools and loans to help attend college. Department of Transportation, in charge of highway planning and construction, car, air, truck, railroad safety, all kind of organization from that perspective. We also have a Department of Agriculture that works to support farmers and develop and expand markets abroad. And the Department of Treasury that collects taxes, recommends ways to help the economy, and manufactures coin and money. The Department of Defense is responsible for providing the military forces needed to protect our country. The Department of Health and Human Services looks after people's health and provides services, including medical research, preventing diseases, and assuring safety of food and drugs. Department of Energy and other departments such as Commerce, Justice, Housing, Urban Development, Interior, Veterans Affairs, Homeland Security, and State we'll discuss all in the next chapter. Second branch we're going to talk about is the judicial branch. And the judicial branch of the government is made up of the court system. The Supreme Court is the highest court in the land, and it was established by the Constitution. Other federal courts were established by Congress, and those courts decide to argue about the meaning of law, how laws are applied, and whether the law breaks the Constitution, which again is the supreme law of the land. The Supreme Court hears the cases that they've made their way through the lower court system, and there are more than 7,500 cases sent to the Supreme Court each year, but only about 80 to 100 are actually accepted and listened to by the justices. There are 9 Supreme Court justices, and one of them of the 9 being the Supreme Court Chief Justice. The justices of the Supreme Court are appointed by the President and approved by the Senate, and they serve a term for life. We'll talk about that in detail again later. The legislative branch, one of the most unique parts, it's made of Congress, which is 2 different houses. You have the House of Representatives and the Senate. The U.S. Congress is made of 2 parts, the House of Representatives and the Senate. Congress meets at the U.S. Capitol in Washington, D.C. Its primary duty is to write, debate, and pass laws, which are then passed on to the President for approval to become laws. The House is based off of the number of people that live in each state. Therefore, states with larger populations have more representation than states with smaller populations. Each state has at least 1 representative in the House. So, for instance, Delaware on the right has a smaller population. They only have 1 based off of the population of the country. And a state like Pennsylvania, we're sitting at 19. Used to be a little bit more populous. Our population has increased, but not at the rate of other states. So you see a lot of the delegates being taken from states like Pennsylvania, Ohio, and New York, and moving to states like Nevada, California, and Texas. Each representative serves a term of 2 years. When that term is over, people from the state may choose to elect a new representative or keep the same one. So if you're ever thinking about running for representative, you must be at least 25 years of age, be a U.S. citizen for the past 7 years, and live in the state that you represent. The other part of Congress is the United States Senate, and each of the 50 states send 2 people to the Senate. So there's a total of 100 senators. This means that each state has equal representation in the Senate. Pennsylvania, for instance, has 2, and Delaware has 2, even though a population of Pennsylvania is much larger. Again, we talked before, the president of the Senate is actually the vice president of the United States. They're there to cast a tie-breaking vote in case it's necessary. Each senator serves a term of 6 years, and when their 6-year term is over, the people from the state can choose to elect a new senator or keep the same one. Thinking about running for Senate, you must be 30 years of age, be a U.S. citizen for the past 9 years, and live in the state you represent. Special duties of the legislature, or this branch, the legislative branch, in addition to making laws, the House and Senate have special duties. The Senate can vote on any treaty that the president makes. They can review and approve the presidential appointments such as cabinet and secretaries and Supreme Court justices. And they could hold trial for a government official who does something wrong, in the case of something like an impeachment. The House of Representatives can recommend tax bills to become law and decide if a government official should be put trial for the Senate if he or she commits a crime against the country. Just again what we talked about with an impeachment inquiry. So Philadelphia, did you know when Philadelphia was the capital of the United States, the House and Senate met in Independence Hall. The Senate met on the upper level of the House, and the House met on the lower floor. So even today, the Senate is referred to as the upper house, as the House of Representatives is called the lower house. So, which we talked about before when we did the web quest to start off the chapter, but I want us to go through and look about who are the people who are representing us. How long have they been in office? And what are some of their ideas and the issues that interest you? Are you for them or against them? Or are they working with you?